So who here has been to a Shakespeare play? Okay. I would highly advise you to go and watch Shakespeare if you can. Some of his phrases, to be or not to be, that is the question. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. There's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. What are you seeing in all of these quotes? What are you noticing from an NLP perspective? What are you seeing there?
It's open to interpretation.
Yes.
Non-referring, it's artfully vague as.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the whole thing about you go into a Shakespeare play, and I call it you get your ear in. It takes a wee while, you know, depending, especially if English is not your first language, it can take a wee while just to get your ear in. But once your ear in, you're in it. We're only looking at a tiny little bit of Shakespeare language today, but you can pick up, my husband has always carries the complete work of Shakespeare, and sometimes I just open a page and I read just to see, and it's all trance language. And the beauty about that is that these quotes, they're all from Shakespeare. Shakespeare uses words in a way that motivate, inspire, and influence his audience. Trance language is of ambiguity, which means that when you're listening to trance language, you're creating your own meaning of what's being said rather than being given specific instructions for doing so. This is the reason why Shakespeare's work is still relevant after 400 years. It's also the reason why his plays can be adapted to any time and location. In fact, there are many plays adapted from Shakespeare's plays, including many films. West Side Story is Romeo and Juliet, The Lion King is Hamlet, and Planet is The Tempest. It's really interesting to go and see the same Shakespeare play in maybe 4 or 5 different versions. I've seen some of them set in medieval times, and some of them set in the 1970s, the 1980s. Also with costumes, sometimes you've got the historical costumes, sometimes people are just in their normal street clothes. But the language is still relevant. Okay, and sometimes they adapt it a little bit, but the whole core of that language means that what's being said can be adapted to any time in any situation. And I really believe this is why scholars of Shakespeare talk about any emotion that any human being comes across, Shakespeare will have written about it. Because it's all relevant to the person that's listening. You're making up your own scenario. In fact, we even went to a production of Midsummer Night's Dream, and they even went further with the trance stuff. All the fairies in the wood scene, they all had poles with little lanterns with candles, and they were all standing at the side of the stage doing that. And I remember I could feel myself really going into trance, and I looked round at the audience, and it was a matinee audience full of children, and every single one was sitting there like that, just looking at the stage. You could have done that with them. So the language, and plus the other things they were doing to create a sense of trance, was absolutely incredible.